This is Calcat, the Calcatster. Welcome to the after show. Yes. The after show. No, after Starship Locations. This is the after show this is, keep rambling on. This is the after show of Starship Locations and the All Transformers Rush together. This is the after show of that. Calcat, the Calcatster, and Mark's cards might chime in tomorrow on John Night, but yeah, he wasn't really involved that much except for this finale, and of course, way back in the day, occasionally he would have a cameo. He had more cameos, I think, in this last Thursday than he's had in quite some time. This is not really an Adamicon. There is one this year. There just isn't. This is more of an after show, yeah. The characters and stories and reveals and all that good stuff. Yeah, which is kind of related to the other TMS Martial Sportiest stuff too, as well, indirectly. Yeah, not really. There's a lot of weird false narratives that have happened with that over the years, and it's like there's like, yeah, a lot of it is just bloggers that want attention, that want to make a name for themselves, and it just keeps the algorithm moving. And there's no new news. They just want to keep the algorithm going, and so does the old COL as well. So yeah, we did the Starship Locations and Starship meets the Transformers. It's been a while since we did the Transformer ones. All the voices are Calcat, but the voices are inspired by other people, and there always have been like people that have inspired the other people in the story. There was, especially in the Starship Locations, the current just graduated college group at the church. Some of them inspired the characters of Tamara and Kestra, and then the Abbeys and the other one, the Abbeys, and the other was one other. Katie's and Abby's and Jessica's and all those. Katie's and Jessica's and Scott's, and those were from OG parents of the other ones in the story. They're using their real first names, but it wasn't really them. It was just Calcat doing voice. With their permission, of course. And Amanda as well, Ramsey. Yeah. And what is the relationship of that? They're ex-college students from the calling group at the church. Just screwing around. These people are screwing around. They just want hits and views on a website. There was a manufactured drama concerning some of the college students and some of the older dudes that were to church, but that was just them messing around. I don't know what they were doing. Like just encouraging the guy. Why do that? That was messed up. That was what are you doing that? Just like they were in on it. There was this season. There wasn't anything like that. That was a couple of years ago. They hinted at things that really weren't a big deal, but they were kind of weird, creepy. But yeah, it wasn't me. I was one saying don't do it. But yeah, and it was nobody specifically. It wasn't anybody specifically. I'm not going to name names. Yeah. Implied adultery of some older dudes, cast running around. That's all. Nothing happened though. They wanted to, but it was more like coveting than adultery. Coveting. But yeah, they didn't stand a chance. Yeah, and then the person there, one of them was after, ended up getting married to somebody else their age, but was younger than them, of course. The person's age, college age. Which makes more sense, because that would just be weird. Yeah, so that threw the other timeline off in the series. So this character, the character in the story has to stay like the actor that's inspired it. Yeah, I totally do. No, they don't. They went on and did something else. Halfway through, we had input from the actual junior cast, the college students who were graduating from college, and this past season, we're like, yeah, we actually have like input from the actual people at the game and stuff, and some junior people who weren't old enough yet who were also inspired by it, but to begin it, but they're not in it. They were just inspired it, and from the church cast, and they were like. Yeah, one of them was like, oh yeah, I went into medical and bioscience and stuff. Another one went into bioscience, one went into medical. So I was like, that's not what our characters are in the show, but they don't have to be. Yeah, I mean, kind of funny if one of them was, but yeah. So the character of Emoji, Emma, she became a medical person, put in the sick bay. And since bioscience is still science and kind of like engineering, we kept the other Abby that was a bioscience person in engineering, and the third Abby was still in engineering, and then we put Tamara's character in. These are the characters, by the way. That we put her in engineering too. Switch things around. It's a different timeline since the 2013 Q thing. Slightly different timeline. Yeah, we kind of screwed up, and then we can come and fix it. What do we do with the Transformers? We're like, oh, I did the Transformers Robotech thing and kind of messed things up. Gotta fix it. Click Cowpoke, come back, fix it. Does the same thing here. We did 2 new Starship locations meets the Transformers movies, one back to back. Included Mark's cards in there. We had completed 90 minutes of one story and about half of another story. And by the time the end of the evening and Mark's cards had showed up, we had another 40 minutes of that story, so we just kept doing it until there were 2 movies, 2 90-minute movies. A little over 90 minutes, almost 2 hours for both of them. We were able to do that, and the other one was 2 hours. Because I decided to include the rant that we were on about all season, put that in there. So like, okay, it's Mark's cards. We won't go into the political situation because we'll get flagged by YouTube. Let's just say the political situation sucks. And so this season kind of had this other character called Mandrake Coddle, who was the bad guy, leader of the planet, and yeah, we had to get rid of him. So the last 40 minutes of that final story is they send somebody back to the planet. The Transformers help. They go back to the planet to stop Mandrake Coddle. Finally, to stop him, and they point out in the story, cynically, that that doesn't happen in real life, and it isn't real life. It's just what happened in the Transformers story. And it also is canon with what happens with the Robotech people later when they return in the 2030s. It's canon with that. Yeah. Since the Coddle is actually in the story is a clone created by Cobra or some other clandestine organization. We've got Furak in there too. And then we've got Nustifer in there. And we had a Nustifer before Strange New Worlds had a Nustifer. The Klingerite. We thought of that name way back in the Canary Space saga when it was being written. We had no idea that they were going to do their own Nustifer. And that's fine. That's a character. It's definitely some sort of devil and bad guy. I think the name is like Mesopotamian, I think. It's been used in other shows. It's not like it's a name like, okay, call him like Beelzebub or something. It's like he's not. Yeah, it's not like they own the rights to a name like that. It's like calling him Orc or something. It's orcs. There's orcs, and there's elves and there's Balrogs and demiurgans and things like that. In fantasy and sci-fi, it's not like that name is a copyrighted name. So yeah, he shows up. He shows up as an ethereal voice in the background. And the uncredited voice of Furak is Ponce de Leon from Trans 2. In case you didn't notice, it's the guy from Trans 2. The uncredited. I don't want my name on it, but I'll come back and do Furak. It's funny. Yes. Furak the Destroyer. Master of the dreaded staff, hail the sacred balls. Here to the sacred iron balls, here to the holy rings of Skeletor. Not Skeletor, but Skeletor. It's the bird skull eye rings. Some consternation has also occurred, because there's other people that have similar names that are younger than are and old enough to be in the show. And those people thought they were in the show. She was. She said. So my character melts your brain if she uses her psychic powers. That's actually funny. I like that. I should be an X-Men bad guy character. Melt your brain. That's cool. Of course, Starfleet Academy stole that idea on their show. Of course they did. But I was thinking that way back. The character of Jessica in the story has powers. Like the Dune one does. Yeah, their daughters do too. But the youngest daughter has more powers. So I thought of that like 2 years ago. Come on, guys. You stole it from us. Come on. But yes. But that's not surprising either, because that's like X-Men powers. It's like, that's not really, yeah, it's not a copyright thing. It's just like, oh, you have a psychic character with powers, with psionic powers. Okay, so do we. Okay. Psionic powers. Yes, as Trek Yards people analyzing the character were like, oh, psionic, not sonic. They had to visualize how she was using her psionic powers. The psionic, they're like psychic. Yeah, the story comes to an end. Starship meets the Transformers, and we managed to fix the damage done by this. You'll see in the making of, there's an outtake scene where they're going to reference some of the zombie people that survived. And I thought no, let's just not put that in there. I ended up reshooting the scene with different people, including Kimmy in there, and all those. And that made more sense. It's like, okay, what are those guys up to? What's Prize Hunter up to? The bad guy, Saltine. But yes, so and Tendi doesn't get to do much again. The character Tendi was inspired by the Tendi from Lower Decks, of course, as was Mariner, Lower Decks, and Boimler, Lower Decks. And since Boimler is one of our characters, and they totally like put it on Lower Decks, we can use him. We can in turn use some Gemelt characters that are similar to Tendi and Rutherford as well. And in 2015, Disneyland thing that we put back up, we have an unofficial re-release of the 2015 one. We were pitching to Disney at the time, and we can say it now. That's 10 years. Yeah, we went down to Disney, and we didn't do it this time. Now, when we were at Disneyland last year, we didn't pitch anything, but 2015 we did, because that other guy was pitching, or allegedly, but he wasn't really. We went down there. We pitched the idea of a prince meeting a prince, a princess meeting a princess, Turtles All the Way space plant thing, that goofy thing, a bunch of other stuff, which was conglomerated into a movie called Strange World that no one went to see. Yeah, I liked it. It was fine. Didn't get any credit for it, but yeah, it was Strange World. Also, some Marvel stuff. Because Marvel stuff. Fantastic Four, or First Steps, is basically the premise that we pitched. That's that movie that was made. We didn't get any credit for that either. But yeah, or we would have a bigger channel. And then Lower Decks doubled down again and said, we don't like that Cal-Cat fan film thing where Nick Locarno comes back. So we're going to bring back Nick Locarno and then kill him and put him on a Genesis planet. We don't like that part. But that's okay, because he'll probably complain, and next season we'll just ignore it. That's what they did. And so we have, that might be what happened. I don't know. Because we want to be famous again. Yeah. Because we were. The channel was like between 2015 and 2019, before the pandemic, the Cal-Cat channels were so big that they have thousands of views and things. Yeah, lots of views. We had subscribers all over the place, views, everything. The algorithm is not being nice to us lately, but back then, wow, I don't need to go into all the views that we have, what we used to outlook. Yeah, so I'm not going to read off a list of that. That's silly. But yeah, Gamel pitched his characters at least to our stuff. Okay, we'll include some of them. You'll be a Carta in the Carta movie. Okay. There's a Carta in the Carta movie. Yeah. But yeah, he appears a couple in the Carta movies. The 3 Carta movies, which were completed. And then we wanted to do 2 more Starship meets the Transformers as well. Starship meets the Transformers as well. And did those. And yeah, it's that last story kind of just like has a synergy in which last 2 stories of the Star, we get a hint of the Star Trek figures, where they could go from here. And the premise of the story, even though some of the dialogue doesn't indicate it, it's 2408 for some of the characters that are in the earlier timeline. It's 2414 for the one for the later ones, like Alexander. It's 2 different timelines come together, and at the end there's a synergy where they have come back together and everything's fine because they defeated Coddle, the kind of ripping off Strange New Worlds, which ripped off us several times by having it be that the alien that is Coddle's master is his father, I guess, comes back and he's like you've been poorly, little bastard. I'm gonna send you to hell. After show. Yeah, there will be other stuff in the future. There will be other. Once everything's up and running in Roseville, there will be other stuff. But that's not running yet. We haven't built that yet. So I'm sure there will be a on location end Cat show and stuff like that, and all that back up and running up there when that happens. And yeah, so this is where the studio was. It was getting a little hairy there, doing 2 movies for Carta and then doing 2 movies for Starship. Used to be the Transformers, got a little OCD about it, even though we're not. And did it anyway. And yeah, and the one character's friend missing from the story is because she doesn't do Star Trek. That's why she isn't in it. There's nothing unusual there. But yes. And also it coincides with the real character being at camp that week. So at camp that week. And the younger person. It doesn't matter because the real person and the Star Trek figure are completely different. And we won't be... The real Rumsey knows about it though. And kind of annoys her that she's not in that party still. No, she's over the party. But yeah, that was kind of an in-joke too. That went too far and it got silly. And it was like, she wasn't that bent out of shape over a cast party, but a cast that wasn't going to meet. I didn't even go to this year's cast party. They didn't have one. The kid group did, but the other one didn't. Yeah, there's going to be a cast party for the choir. There really never was. Yeah, that's kind of screwy. But yeah. So yeah, there's nothing there either. I'm just going to put it up there. Why? I don't have a company. I don't have a computer company. This is not a studio. This is a guy in the Bay Area. It's not a studio. There's no revenue. Our YouTube channels make 0 money. 0. It's hemorrhaging money. The studio, the fan films themselves cost under maybe $200 to make a fan film if the sets are all nice. $200, $300 maybe each one. If the sets are nice and now they're packed away, and there's nobody getting any revenue. There's no AdSense. There could have been back in the day when the channel was on its highest peak in the back in the day. It could have been. That was all before the Starship locations thing even happened. And in the making of Chimeras, when all that other stuff happened, we have 10 years after this, the bullshit thing. We have the Channel Awesome scandal, and and that, which was also mentioned. Sorry, guys. Sorry. Also, we have fun with Red Letter Media as well, because not only did Gamel's pitch in the first couple of seasons of Starship Locations, they did too. The Red Letter Media guys. Well, oh yes, we're going to use your Starship Galaxy story. With your permission, of course. Oh yeah, you can make a fan film out of our idea. That's interesting. Okay, go for it. That's interesting. But yeah, and we did. And adapted Starship Galaxy and made some of them a Neelix and a Lore and a Riker and some other guys. Connected it to the Thad Riker Ghost guy. We did a bunch of other stuff there, Bronze and all that. We've been over how some of the Picard show people who about our stuff ended up doing characters like a Cillian villain in the third Picard show story, Cillian villain. But we've been over that, so I don't need to go over that this time. She wasn't in this story. Yeah, so... but yeah. So there's lots of connections and behind the scenes that were happening. The coolest connection behind the scenes, though, was a TOS writer-producer. An actual TOS guy. Well, that was Melinda Snodgrass, the writer, suggesting ideas, but it's hard to convention. There was also a con person called Carly Frinkles, who was also inspiring episodes of the show. She was the inspiration for one of the characters in the story. But anyway, the Star Trek person this is a while back, so it doesn't matter anymore. This is a while back, so the Star Trek person, it's David Gerald, together with the Trouble Tribbles. No, that David Gerald. When Starship Chimera came out in 2019, conventions later on, and before the pandemic, and the heyday of the show was we get to meet with David Gerald. So I did, and he had a script, Trouble Tribbles sequel script that would have taken place during the second 5-year mission, basically. Yeah, so it was all. I want to adapt this as a fan film because I'm going to. Yeah, you can do that because we've already done Blood and Fire. Don't do that one. I'm not going to do Blood and Fire. You guys got that one. So I adapted it and it became The Great Tribble Hunt, the movie, the pilot of the other series. And then Nichelle Nichols, who was ailing, I had seen her a couple times at conventions over the years. She was elderly, and we put her in there with Nog, and that was after Aaron Eisenberg had passed. So the two of them have a scene where they're on a ship together, doing the old McCoy scene from Next Generation, except more poignant because they actually are on their way out. The story. I did the Deep Space Nine story justice. We did a Deep Space Nine one called Fearful Symmetry, based on an old fan submission thing from back in the day. Yes, back in the 90s, you could submit a script to Star Trek. There was a contest, and I did. It's Fearful Symmetry for Deep Space Nine, Fearful Symmetry for Deep Space Nine, and Voyager was the Arbiter. 2 new shows that were out at the time. Yeah. So those 2 were submitted and then rejected. But I did know what I was doing. There was like a handwritten note that's since disappeared saying like, oh, you had a grasp of the Deep Space Nine characters. You understood them. The one, the Voyager, the same thing. The Voyager one said, oh, we were doing too many Tuvoks that season. They did keep the Deep Space Nine one in mind, and elements of the Deep Space Nine one appeared as the ship episode of Deep Space Nine. So that did happen. The Voyager one did not. But still, I was. So in the end, you have characters, they've inspired other ones like David Gerald in his script. So, yeah, I'm sure there'll be other things out there. Yeah, after show. Ooh, yeah, I didn't want to bring out any characters or anything, explain any other people. There's no point. It's the cadets in the story were not brought into the academy because I figured, yeah, Kesra and Tam and the other was Emoji and the Abbeys didn't need to be like literally brought out as little action figures and say which ones they are. Why not keep it a mystery? Now they were leaving the show, so we won't know. Yeah. But yes, so yeah, the executive producer of the show is Dan, but the executive. But with that Academy show, they're basically saying, okay, well, we're going to make them act like cadets because they'll be cadets. This is a lot goofy. Because Stranger Worlds, they don't act like officers. They act like cadets. So, anyway, but this is not a review of those shows. I will continue to review Starfleet Academy until it is over. And as well as to finish up the church plays and finish up the other stuff until it's over. And then it'll be over. And then, I'll go up north, and then, there's the kill. They're back. Or wherever they are. They're back. Cool. Yeah, so we see. What else is up there? Yeah. Well, Gunnell doesn't really know that he technically is Carter, but doesn't care. I don't know which. But yeah, it's not him. It's Cat voice. It's not really him. We'll see it again. We talk about other characters because this is a rap party. It's not really a party. It's a rap. So yeah, we'll talk about this other character, Jim Ticon, who was also an action figure of O'Brien, who also made a Scott character in Smart. Until it's confusing because it's three different people. But yeah, Martin Roadkill Tucker is the voice of Jim Ticon. But the real person disappeared. 2017, we don't know what happened to him. He was one of the original Minions, Jim Buffkin. It was Mark Cars, or John Yeager, Jim Buffkin, Tim Cantrell, me, and Angie Tyson, and back in the day. And then Angie Tyson moved, and then it was just us. But before she moved, we found out the things we were going to do in the future when we were adults, and and our beloved Pine Hill School, which is the whole catharsis of the whole thing. Jim swore up and down, I'm not going back there ever. Kind of at that plan, I'm going back there if you're not there. Tim was all like, did you become a coach or something? Oh, maybe a security guard. And then got diabetes later on. And Tim is mentioned. Tim returned in like 2024? I think 2023, 2024. He returned a couple of times. So he's actually involved in Space Vanguards. When we did Space Vanguards, he's actually kind of has a cameo in that, which is awesome. We decided that his character returns. We flipped the Raxler and the Schmidt character and the others around a little bit, and he was on the set. Saw that from there. The Schmidt character is Tim, the Riker Schmidt character. Yeah, in that episode. He wasn't Raxler, he was Tim. He was Schmidt. He was around. He came back to be in the Starfighter. Only briefly though. He was only there for like one day of filming, and then it was us the rest of the time. He was only there the one day. But yes, but it gave advice for what the characters should look like when they're early on. And then but we're talking about Pine Hill. And Mark Cars is going to be a filmmaker. Never became a filmmaker. He almost got there, but not quite. And he returned in the 2020s when I was back at San Jose State Journalism. And I didn't do script writing English and stuff. I learned how to do script writing. A lot of fans don't know how to do script writing. It's a skill. You got to learn it. It's not just a craft. It's a skill. You got to learn it. And if you're not really good at writing, maybe that's not much for you. I don't know. But it's a skill you got to learn. You got to learn how to type. That's the first thing. Learn how to type well. Yeah. Because AI is not going to help that much. Yeah, so Mark Schwartz was a filmmaker, and that story was, Adam will probably go back to Pine Hill and be a teacher there. They were determined I was going to be the one that goes back to Pine Hill, teacher. Or a professor or something. I never got to be a teacher at Pine Hill, but a Sunday school teacher at kids clubs and stuff. So yeah, kind of. Because it's kind of like a Pine Hill. It's kind of. Kind kind of. Kids Club is kind of a Pino. So there you go. There you go. So yeah, you can't show that. So you have, some of the characters came back. Mark's Cards came back for that cameo last week. And we kept the whole cameo discussion on the making of there. You can watch the whole, how we did the cameo. You can watch the whole scene. How we worked it out. And then the Silly Kelly later on adding the visual. The Silly Kelly visuals thing. Which is hard to do, but we did it. It's done. Even some of the leadership, even some of the background characters mentioned in some of the title credits. And their weird connections to the other stuff in VBS camps and things. Which I don't need to go into because we didn't really use them in any kind of silly Trek fashion. Except to say that the character that's mentioned is Reedy Dunn, Todd's wife, is a camp director and youth director, is mentioned in the credits. Is Todd's the choir director. Mentioned in the church because some of the episodes of later seasons were inspired a little bit by camp dialogue. Therefore, them. Not so much Marley, though. Not so much Mrs. Marley. Mrs. Dunn's about my age, even though she claims to be much younger. She's a little bit younger than me. Well, only a little. She's John's age. She's Mark's Card's age. She's Mark's Card's age. But they weren't really. It was just Calcat again. So don't worry about it. There was no one under the age of 18 in the set at all. So don't worry about that either. There was not. How would they? They don't worry. But no. And nothing happened. And no, there's no message behind the episode where Kester gets drunk from the space wine. I just thought it would be funny. That was not inspired by anybody. If anything, it was probably a Calcat joke, referencing getting drunk on something that wasn't really that strong. So yeah. Anyway, this is the after show, mentioning a bunch of stuff that probably didn't need to be mentioned, but it wasn't really bad. It just turns out none of it was. It was all just make-believe. It was all fantasy. Some of it might have not been. But then again, there's no proving it. I know. They were totally mad about bullshit. Yeah. While I was at State again. Mark Scartz was also taking film school again. And he could have actually had an internship. Could have arranged it with his professor to say, all right, we've started up these fan films on this YouTube channel called The Calcat Show, run by me. Does that count as an internship? Doing an independent fan film for this Calcat guy? Yes, it does. Let's do a fan film for this Calcat guy. Okay, that counts. Finish the fan film, give it to the teacher. Give him trans tech. I did this. I directed this. All right, that counts. Should have done it. Trans tech counts. There you go. Trans tech too. That's not how it works. Either that, or he could have covered the other events. Any one of a number of events would have worked. RTVF events. But what was I saying about the other thing? What was I saying about the other events? I was distracted. 2007. Oh yeah, the bullshit thing. Sarah. We had Linda. We had Mark talking about the bullshit. So for that Sarah lady to come on that bullshit later on and say, we don't talk about you there. She lied. She totally did. That very night she was talking about. Now. And and not only does the algorithm come up with his stuff, it comes up with the other stuff from other extras. So it isn't just that 35 DMS extras. It's about 200 in addition to that are completely different. 200, maybe 300. Larger than the original COL. It's actually, well, all ex-COL. Yeah, I don't have any files that admit to anything like that. I don't have anything like that. It would be useless if I did. What would I do with that? I have one of the couple of the bullshit novels actually, but what am I gonna do with them? I turned them into a Star Trek parody thing called Marshall Sportiest, and put them and I did a Marshall Sportiest movie, and I turned them into fan fiction, so they're not that anymore at all anyway. But yeah, no, not with the other one either. Not with Kate Tara Hertzman or whatever that character's name is. Not with her either. No, that'd be goofy. I was just thrown in there as a joke. This is the same action figure, so it's really confusing. I don't know why I made it a different action figure. But it's funny that the Kate Tara Hertzman character was playing the bored queen lady, the Carter Planet, so Jillian Rossmacom. Rossmacom is named after Jill Rossman, who was a Pine Hill student, just because stealing a name. It wasn't really her. Yeah. And there's Allison Strawberg, who's Allison King, also stealing a Pine Hill name, because you have to have an antagonist. But yes, for either of those people are kind of but yeah, they weren't really them. And no, I did not have an affair with them either. Because, yeah, you don't stick it in crazy. But anyway, this is the after show. Going on about shit, shooting the shit. About mostly stuff that doesn't really matter so much. But if you really wanted to know, now you know. There's nothing to most of that stuff. And whatever else seems to be more curious and Randy is probably just Irish bullshit in here. Oi, because I am 1/4 Irish, you know. Aye, brown with an E. Oh, aye, that's right. I could be bullshitting you. And also, Hello 123 could be bullshitting you too. So, now that I've broke wind in here, I will end it now. Of this story, that is. Live long and prosper. And now,